2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brannon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
How do I help my friends who are stuck?
Welcome to the Therapy Brothers podcast.
I'm Brannon.
I'm Tyler.
We're brothers.
We're therapists.
And we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery.
Hey, Tyler, you ready to have some hard conversations?
Let's do it.
Let the Therapy Brothers podcast begin.
Brannon, how's it going, man?
It's going good. It's going good. I went to Cocina last night with the with the folks.
I bet Dad was in seventh heaven.
Oh man, he was about to take a bite of his huevos rancheros, and he's just like, "This is what I've been waiting for. Like, this is it right here." So,
the simple pleasures of life. You know, Mom and Dad have been gone for 18 months to Papua New Guinea. They got home on Monday, and we're here on Wednesday now.
So they didn't love the food there, so when they sat down in front of a big plate of Mexican food, it was like heaven on earth.
It's so funny how perspective changes when you haven't had something for a while.
Yeah, it was good to see the joy in their faces. Yeah. So other than that, yeah, things are good. So what about for you?
Things are great, man. Happy to be here. I'm excited to have our guests here today, and I think we ought to probably just jump in. Just want to first just welcome everybody who's watching. As you're watching, if you're doing it on the live stream, we'd love to have you here, and we'd love to have your comments in live time. But especially we're grateful for our guests today. We've got Chris and Bridget here with us, had the courage to come on and share a little bit of their journey and where they're at. And you guys, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, well, tell us a little bit about any parts that you feel comfortable with that would be helpful for the conversation about where you're at in your own journeys, a little bit about your journey, and then the question you guys have.
Yeah, so we've been in active recovery, betrayal, trauma recovery for close to 3 years. Our D-Day was in January of 2022. I had a 16-year sex addiction, which involved pornography, masturbation, and paying for sex as well. And hid it for a lot of years, lived in silence, thought that I just had to take it to the grave because I could never face it. And it all came to a head when Bridget found out about my behaviors. And so that was a very traumatic experience that night. And I thought I was dead at that point. I couldn't see past if she ever found out, I couldn't see past that. To me, that was death. And I told her, I said, I'll just go kill myself. And she said, no, you won't. You're going to suffer through this. You don't get to take the easy way out. But it was divorce for sure. She couldn't see any other option, and I didn't blame her. If I was in her shoes, I would have divorced me as well. So that was a very traumatic experience. The next about 48 hours was just absolute hell for me. My worst nightmares had come true, and I'm sure for Bridget as well. And then we had an experience with her father that really started to change everything. Do you want to talk about that?
You good?
Okay.
You're doing great.
So she reached out to her father after a few days, and her mother, for support on just like, what do I do here? How do I divorce this guy? How do I move on with my life? And her father at first wrote her an email and said, don't do anything right now. Your emotions are too high. Everything's too raw. You need to let things settle down before you make some long-term decisions that will have big consequences. And in the email, he also said that this is not Chris just boys being boys type behavior. There's something seriously wrong with Chris, and he needs help. He needs professional help. And Bridget, this was the first point that she saw me as a human, I think, after those 2 days, that a human there was something wrong with, that needed help. And he came to see her the next morning. Her mother couldn't come. She had COVID at the time, so her father came alone, drove up from Bountiful to Logan, and spoke with her. And then she called me, and she said, he wants to speak with you. And so I agreed, came to my own house to meet him, walked in the front door, just dead man walking, wanted to just die and fall through the floor. It's the last place I wanted to be, to face the man whose daughter's heart I just destroyed. And so I walked in the front door, and he was sitting at our kitchen table, and he turns to look at me, and my head just sunk, and I said hello, and he stood up, just stone-faced, to come over towards me, and he walked towards me, and my heart's just like pumping through my chest at this point. And as he gets closer, he opens his arms and embraces me in a hug. And at that point, I just lose it. I start bawling on his shoulder in confusion. I don't understand what's happening. And he just says, it's okay. It'll be all right. I love you, Chris. I love you as much as my own sons, and it's going to be okay. And so that point there was the catalyst for me, and I think for Bridget as well, that there was still hope. That hope was still alive. And he sat me down on the couch and looked me square in the eyes, and he said, you can never do this again. And I said, okay, I promise I'll never do it again. And it was such a traumatic experience that I've stayed true to that promise. I've kept that promise over the past 2+ years.
You forgot what he said after that. You can never do this again, or you will.
That's right. He said, you will die. You will die physically. And I'm not sure what he meant by that. And you will die spiritually if this happens again. And so it was such a traumatic event that it was a catalyst, like I said, to launch me into recovery work. It wasn't like, oh, okay, I've been given this grace from my father-in-law, from God, and now everything's fine. It was a catalyst that launched me in the right direction. And we started to see miracle after miracle. It turns out that he served an LDS mission in Paris in the 70s, 50 years ago. And his companion, whom he still is close with and speaks with regularly and has done some projects with, is Dan Gray. I think you guys know Dan Gray pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the founders of the Lifestar Network. And so my father-in-law told me, you need to call my friend Dan. He can help you. And so I called Dan, and he said, I've been expecting your call. Your father-in-law talked to me about you and your story. Unfortunately, I'm not taking on new clients right now because I'm semi-retired, but I'll make an exception for my friend. And so Dan Gray's been my personal therapist since then. And so I got into the Lifestar program. I did their intensive outpatient program. I have a mutual friend with Tyler. So I learned about Tyler and his work up here in Logan later that year. And so I've been attending Tyler's groups for over 2 years now. Been to the Rising Sun twice. Bridget's been to Radiant Dawn. And we, like I said, I went all in, and I'm so grateful that Bridget was willing to go all in as well. And we found a lot of healing and a lot of miracles over the past almost 3 years now.
Bridget, I just want to hear some of your side of the story, the recovery process. What's it been like for you?
Well, obviously it was very traumatic at first, but while he was telling that story, I couldn't help but smile and like giggle to myself at all of the silly things that were going on throughout all of that. Like when my dad did show up, I welcomed him. He pulled into the driveway and he got out of his car, and I hugged him, and I looked up the street and I could see Chris's truck up the street parked around the corner, and it was slowly backing away behind the house. I was like, just a very awkward backwards sidle so that my dad wouldn't see him. He was watching, waiting for my dad to show up. But I guess that's a good sign that things have healed a lot. But yes, it was very traumatic at first. Chris said it felt like he had died. And it was interesting watching that happen. It felt like I had been murdered myself.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really hard for a really long time. And we had been told that 3 years is, if you can make it 3 years, then you'll probably be good for the rest of your life. And I remember getting to 1.5 years, and suddenly things shifted, and it wasn't a nightmare every single day. So it was very hard for a really, really long time. But yes, we did go all in. And I found myself at a recent retreat. We went to a Jennifer Finlayson 5 retreat as well. And we've been to several others, focusing on physical healing and also spiritual healing. This one was for couples, and another couple there had asked me about how I felt about the whole thing. And I found myself saying I was glad that it had all happened, because something in our relationship, something in my life was so stagnant, and it felt so wrong. And this man who had asked me about it was really taken aback, and he asked me several times, wait, you say you're glad this all happened? And he did not believe me. He had thought he had misheard, but I am glad that we've there was a catalyst that pushed us to do hard things that we would not have done otherwise, and get an education that we should have had from the beginning, I feel like. So that now we have a wonderful foundation in our relationship that was never there. So I am really grateful for institutions like Love Strong and the other ones that we've been involved with. So I feel like there's been so much progression that I'm so grateful for, that it's been worth it, but obviously I wouldn't want to do it again.
Yeah.
So that kind of bleeds into this question that we have of how do we help friends who, we've been talking about this question of catalysts and hard things, and that you would never choose to go through this, but it was the catalyst for big change. And yet we have a lot of friends who seemingly, I guess they haven't had a catalyst like this, so they're having trouble moving. And how hard that is. And I imagine it must be hard for you guys sitting with clients year after year who are having trouble changing. We have friends who are in our groups, outside our groups, and family members too, who struggle with a lot of the same things that we have. And they simply, they love to, have the conversations, but don't want to do the work. Mm-hmm. And how frustrating that is, and how we can help. Because we are to that point in our recovery that we feel like in our groups and with our friends, we've taken on more of a mentor role when we go to our group, and less of a I need to go for my own sake. So that's our question today.
Do you see them stuck with, like, are they in like a victim stance? Are they depressed? Are they just don't want to do their own, like, self-care, their own work? When you talk about being stuck, it's like they go to group, they pay the money, they go to group, or they call you, or they, whatever, but then they just don't really install things into their life to make those shifts. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, kind of like the 1 foot in. They're like, oh, I'm trying to do what it takes to overcome this. And then, so they put 1 foot in, and then they put up some barriers. And they're like, well, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go to the retreat, or I'm not going to do one-on-one therapy. I'm not going to do the programs, the assignments. I just don't think that'll work for me. I just don't think that'll be helpful. And we both just want to, like, shake them and be like, you don't know what you need. If you knew what you needed, you'd have done it already.
It's a hard spot to be in, and it's actually kind of a testament. I want to just identify a couple of things to what you guys have shared with your story right now, so that our listeners can understand some principles here that we're going to be needing to have as an underpinning. So in your story, there were a couple of things that are really important. One is, and you described this beautifully, that catalyst for change, a spot where you were, emotionally dead to rights with your father-in-law, and you're offered grace and love instead, Chris. And then what you described wasn't like this relief of like, oh, okay, everything's all right, I'm going to go back to normal. It was like that offering of grace in that moment became the call to action. Yeah. And then in you guys' case, both you and Bridget, and I know both of you, your idea of all in is all in. Like you guys have pretty much done everything that there possibly is to do towards this idea that we call recovery that you know of. You've done all sorts of things. You've done your normal therapy, you've done your group therapy, you've done multiple kinds of different retreats, multiple different kinds of programs, all for the sake of continued growth and recovery. And when you went and did that, by going all in and surrendering to the programs that you did, I'm sure that some of the programs that you've done, you've agreed with most of it and maybe not agreed with a lot of it. And some of it's good and some of it hasn't been good, but you were willing to do whatever it took. So by being willing to do whatever it took, you on the backside of that start to taste this fruit that's delicious. It's like, whoa, like we have foundation for building a good relationship now, and we both have better confidence in ourselves, and we have a deeper understanding of truly who we are and, like, say, a higher power's eyes. This feels so much better. So naturally, you want to go and you want to plug in all of the good feeling that you've gotten as a result of the all in. And then when you go and tell your friends and you're like, yeah, you got to go all in. And they're like, I go to group now. Like I go to group, I don't even do my assignments yet, but I'm doing way more than I ever did. And you're like, but you got to surrender it all. You got to give it all. And it's hard because it doesn't click in their heads and in their hearts the way that you've had it click for you, because you did it by doing it, by actually surrendering to the whole process. And I just want to echo that, in my own recovery personally, I remember when I started to taste that goodness, I wanted to share it with everybody. And I actually lost a lot of friends because all I wanted to do was talk recovery with them and be like, hey, look, guys, it's like, finally I had to learn how to, like, tone it back. But now as a therapist, it's actually really frustrating sometimes to almost feel like you see and feel the path that they could take, and you feel like you could describe them to put them on it, but you have to try to do 1,000 iterations of helping them see it before they finally have it start to click. And it's hard.
1,000 iterations.
I think there's a hard reality that, you know, a lot of the reasons why you get into this position is an avoidance of discomfort and pain, the lies, the secrecy, you know, even for the partner, the denial about what's going on and trying to like, and I realize you're being manipulated and those type of things, but here's the thing. If avoidance of pain is what got you into this situation, then embracing some discomfort and some pain is what gets you out. And it takes courage. And Tyler said the word surrender. It takes those two things to actually, when we talk about do the work. And a lot of times what happens is somebody wants to do the work, but they don't want to do what it takes in terms of stepping through that pain. Bridget, I really like what you said about the process for you. A year and a half in, you were what's the word I'm looking for? You were engaged in a process, and you knew that it was a process. And so you were willing to just stay there and work through it and get through it until you started to feel better again. Another thing that's really interesting, side note, Chris, like not everybody gets a Jean Valjean moment.
Yeah.
Do you realize that? So there you are. And it's like, okay, like motivated. Yes. Like, and you were motivated because you have a good heart and you're a good man, but also your father-in-law's forgiveness and grace and that he gave to you. Like, yeah, now you had something behind you a little bit pushing you. Yeah. And so sometimes what happens is people get in and they don't have that internal motivation behind them. And so they don't step into that discomfort. I want to ask you guys and see if you can speak to this. And Bridget, I really appreciate that you bring up like, what's it like for you guys? Because honestly, it is hard. It's hard day in and day out to be with people who are ambivalent, aren't willing to do what it takes, and are stuck. And the beauty of our job is we have clients like you guys as well. And so we get to see people move as well and shift and find some real healing. But if you could speak a little bit to the frustration of like, you love these people, you want something different. Like, what's it like for you guys as your mentors, as you're working with people? What's that like?
As you've learned the things you've learned.
Chris talks about wanting to shake them by the shoulders.
Chris has actually done that to some people.
I've seen him do that to someone.
And for me, it's, I want to see the women who have been betrayed. I want to see them step into their power. And because I do remember in one group, Tyler, you did come out and you said you guys are settling for scraps. And there was a lot of change for those women after that. And so with a lot of my friends, I will simply validate over and over and over again, even while they continue to back down on all of their boundaries over and over again, because it's not Christ-like, or it's not forgiving, or it's too harsh, and that's not who they are. And yet they continue to drown in betrayal and abuse and lies. And so it's frustrating to see them trying as hard as they can to be as Christ-like as they can. And yet I think there's a misunderstanding there where it becomes, they're trying so hard to be nice that they get walked all over.
Well, Bridget, can I like insert something here?
Yes, please.
And this might be hard for some people to hear. That is anything but Christ-like. Being nice to avoid conflict, to avoid those things, that's actually not being honest. And so you will stay stuck in that place of you're acting in a place of fear, and you're protecting against that fear, and you're claiming that it's being humble and being nice. Versus, I like what you said, Bridget, step into your power. Like God wants you to be a powerful partner and a powerful woman. And that's probably what you're feeling with them. And like, this is not truth. This is just being nice to avoid the consequences, not stepping into your power, right?
And yes, and for a lot of these women, the consequences of stepping into their power and setting up hard boundaries are that life becomes a lot harder. And, you know, they have to raise kids alone, or they have to find a job where they couldn't before. And yet it seems like those women who do that, they do find, I mean, at least I know this was for me, there was like a massive wave of power that came along, and I was able to do things I could not do before. And I actually, I guess they call it packing the wagon or circling the wagon, I don't know. But I was able to get my master's degree. I took up running. I started doing a lot harder things that I found power and motivation to do that I couldn't do before, that I didn't want to do before, or I just didn't feel like it was necessary. And
she used to call me to help with the smallest tasks around the house. And then she started to realize, well, she kind of put up a barrier and was like, I'm not going to call him because I don't want to ask help from him. So she started doing all these things around the house, and I kind of felt left out, like she was taking over my role. And at the same time, it was quite attractive to see her step into her own strength like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I guess that's from the betrayed perspective, that I get. I am longing to see these people. You know, I'm in a group with women, so I'll say women. I know there are men who are betrayed too. There is a longing to see them step into their power, and it's extremely frustrating when they back down yet again on their boundaries, and so we're just wondering how. I mean, you said 1,000 iterations. A part of me just a lot of the time, a part of me just wants to say, like, okay, don't talk to me about this anymore. You need to go find a professional therapist. Like, and when I've done that, it's like, well, we don't think that's right for us now. So, and that's kind of, that's one phrase that I feel like I hear a lot from people who don't want to change. That's not for me, or it's not right now.
Right. Yep. So keep getting what you're getting. Yeah. I want to give you a scenario. Let's say I had a friend calling me complaining about their boss or somebody, their spouse or whatever.
Never happened.
Yeah, and it's never happened before. But they call me and they're complaining, and it's so first time they call me, like, I'll probably just listen. Yeah, that sucks. It's hard. It's tough. Yeah, sounds pretty bad. Goodbye, right? So let's say they call me again, and same thing, again and again and again. At what point do I go from being a supportive friend to an enabler? See what I'm saying?
Mm.
At what point am I a loving friend when I say, hey, I love you, and I've heard this before, and I know you have a lot of pain, but I can't keep hearing it because it doesn't seem like you want to get out of that pain.
Okay.
Right? That's me loving them. I love you, and I can't continue to just stay here with you because I want you to move forward. You have a comment, Tyler?
Yeah, just a couple of other thoughts. with this, and this is something that has helped me in my profession when I kind of get that state of like burnout, because let's just be clear that you guys, the reason why you guys are feeling so frustrated is because, and I know I'm saying this to people who are still currently committed to your own process. It's not like you're saying we're already healed and we're all better. You're saying we're in a spot now where we have tasted the goodness of these principles. We know that they're good and we want to share with people that we love. And the reason the frustration is there is because of the love you have for them. It's not because you're like trying to judge them or whatever, right? So let's just make sure that's clear first. In dialectical behavioral therapy, there's a code that the therapist has to agree to be a DBT therapist, and one of the rules of the code, so to speak, is that I have to agree as a therapist that my client cannot fail. Only I can fail my client. And that doesn't sit very well with me when I hear it. But what it means is that if I try to help my client and they don't change, I can't blame them for not changing. I have to look at myself and say, what's the next approach for trying to help them? And if I'm not the right person because I'm going to resent them or I'm burned out or I'm tired, then the most loving thing to do is to actually move them on to new places where they can go find their own motivation. So I can fail them. It's okay for me to fail my clients because I'm not going to be the perfect fit for everybody. And I think what Brannon's saying is at a certain point, you do your best. You help. Eventually, when you start to resent that person, that means that your boundaries are out of whack. And so it's probably okay for you to say, hey, you know what? I don't really want to talk about this unless you have a therapist too. And then they may stick around or they may not, or they may try to test that boundary or whatever. But then that leads to like, okay, so then what are the tools that we have to try to help facilitate change in people? And here's where it gets tricky with what Brannon, I think you're saying, is that when somebody comes to you with a real problem, I mean, you guys both know what it's like to be in the true depths of hell. And if you have a friend who now comes to you and starts to open up, uncover their iceberg to you of the hell they're in, of course, the natural place to go is to first start with empathy, understanding, care, compassion. And that has to be there if you want to be able to use the other side of the toolbox, because that care, compassion, love builds trust. It creates safety. It shows that you sincerely care about that person. And here's where it gets hard is that there's a tipping point at some point where it becomes its own drug to come and get validation. And this is, you guys will see this in the groups that you're in right now. There's probably, in any group that I run, there's probably a small percentage of people that are like all in, doing the work no matter what. And you'll see that they're going to be the ones that kind of grow the fastest. And then there's kind of a middle group of people that are like, they kind of like the principles and it feels good to hear them. And they're trying to apply a few little things here and there, but their progress is a little bit slower. And then they kind of like stall out because they don't quite fully go all in. And then there's the 2 or 3 guys in the group or ladies in the group that are just there because they're supposed to be there, and they don't last very long usually. Inside of that, at a certain point, the drug of validation becomes the enabler, but it has to be there at the beginning. And so then it kind of gets to this weird, messy spot where I still need to validate and love and show empathy, but eventually I have to start pushing for change too. And I can push for change the more that I have the currency of trust. So if I can learn to constantly be empathetic, understanding, offering grace, and people know that I love them, then you can get more and more real with, you can start using a bigger stick, so to speak. Where Chris, you can shake a guy by the shoulders and be like, dude, like, snap out of it. But now he's not going like, oh, I'm in shame, or oh, I hate that guy. He's like, that guy loves me. Like, oh, okay. Like, and where I think people go wrong, therapists and friends alike, is we get really stuck on the validation side and never bring in the actual reality side. Or sometimes we get so burned out and tired with it all that we just kind of bring out the harsh side without the love. Yeah. And it's like, stop talking to me. I don't even want to like hear you right now. Like you're burning me out. Like it's like we need to balance both. And that's a hard balance.
I want to relate this to your guys' recovery a little bit and just check in with you on something. Like, I think it's really important that what you're doing in your recovery you feel like is actually helping. And maybe the next step in your recovery is learning how to be pretty honest and pretty direct and pretty boundaried with people, um, when they're so stuck and you love them and you have rapport with them. But being when you're in a group of people and they're resonating in a certain way, they will try to get you to resonate with them, and you're trying to like help them change their vibration a little bit and shift out of things. And then you got to ask yourself, like, is this really where I want to keep going to resonate? And maybe it is my calling to step into this place and to help, but maybe it's not. And I guess that's what I want to ask you guys is where do you feel you're at in that?
Yeah, so from early on in recovery, at least me personally, I think Bridget as well, felt a call to help, because we felt the depths of that hell and how awful it was on my side and on her side. And we saw it so often. Everybody we told our story to either had somebody in their life struggling with something similar, whether it was them or a family member or a friend. We just saw it was so prevalent that we wanted to be a force for good and help, because I was so hopeless and was given hope. And I want to inspire hope in others who feel hopeless. So we definitely felt that call. And since early on in the recovery process, we felt that way. And it just keeps getting stronger the further we get into it. I think I could speak for Bridget as well.
Well, for Chris, if I could say to you, like, you've worked your recovery, you're still work in progress, but you've been at the retreat with us, and I've seen you in action. Like, you stepping up for those men who might not, might just be starting out, might still be in a lot of denial, might be pretty stuck still. You're a huge blessing to them, the way you are and your recovery and all of those things. So I hope that you don't bow out because it's annoying because they're stuck. We definitely want you there, right? But I totally get how hard it can be.
Well, and Brannon, maybe part of what you're getting at here, and the reason you're asking the question that you are to them is that there's a difference when you're intentionally going into a place where, and you guys have been in these situations because you've done your work, where you've been in a group of people where there is a certain kind of energy, and every group has its own energy. Like, would you guys have noticed that? I'm sure you've had enough experience to see that every group has its own energy. Yeah. Brandon's question is, am I going there to be complicit in the energy?
Yeah.
Or am I going there as a calling to actually try to shift that energy?
Yeah.
And if my calling is to go there and help things go right, then I should step back into that place over and over again. But if I'm just going there and then I'm kind of getting swallowed up by that energy that I'm actually not wanting to resonate in anymore, then it is time to find something that's going to stretch me a little differently and move into another place. So I'm either going to help it go right and change it now, or I should probably be moving into the next realm. And I've had this happen a couple of times where this is an example of one of my fails. I personally wanted to, a few years ago, I wanted to kind of create my own personal group of men, my tribe, just for me, to help me up my game, up my next level. And so I invited a group of men that I thought would all be the kinds of guys that would lift me and push me up. And then we started meeting once a month and doing certain things, but very quickly the culture of the group kind of dropped back down to the level that I was already resonating at. And I wasn't necessarily helping it go right because I was trying to climb up. I was trying to surround people who would pull me up. And instead it turned into this thing that felt like me running another group every single month of the same energy that I'm trying to shift people from. And so that one was one that I finally had to say, you know what, that's not really working. I need to figure out a new way to approach it here and try to get what I was needing in a different way. And I still haven't figured that out yet totally, even though I'm being much more successful now with a smaller group of men that I'm working with now that are really trying to elevate me now. But that had to change because it wasn't serving the purpose that it was originally designed for. Right. And it sounds like both of you guys kind of feel like called to the space, which then means you guys have to also figure out how to like deal with that frustration of not taking things so personally when people don't go the way you think that is the best for them. Right.
Bridget, as we've been talking, like, what do you think your next step is with like your recovery work and with working with people? What do you think?
That's a good question. That's something I've been trying to figure out. I'm still am working through your program, the healing journey, and enjoying that. And I'm taking it pretty slow. Chris has been going a lot faster than me, but trying to figure out where I am with my group, because I guess I feel like now I'm not going for myself. I'm going to help others, which is very satisfying. And I also am wondering, like, I've been very pushy with a lot of them lately, and I'm just wondering like, how beneficial my words and actions have been, or if it's just been maybe me being too bombastic. But I feel like with regards to my own self-development, I'm trying to apply what I'm learning in my recovery to other relationships now. Like, I'm having trouble doing that with my children and with parents and in-laws and siblings. I feel like Chris and our relationship has gone so well recently, better than I ever thought it would. And so trying to apply all of that now in a wider circle is where I'm headed.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. That's awesome. I just, you've been pretty direct with people lately, and is it working? I just, Tyler, said maybe you get to a point where, and with his story, maybe you get to the point where you realize that's not helping you. I run a women's group, and it's a really good women's group. And at the beginning of the group, it was full of a lot of caretakers, a lot of what you described. I want to be Christ-like. I want to keep the peace. And now in that group, they are having, some of the women are having some pretty decent conflict with their in-laws. They're having boundaries in their relationships. Like, chaos is happening because the group is working to empower each other to do some pretty badass stuff. Like, it's freaking awesome to watch. Because the group itself is committed to, like, okay, we're going to do the work. And a lot of times, if you're the only person in there and you're fighting for truth and fighting, it's really difficult. But when you have another person start to take to it, and then another person, then all of a sudden that one person who's trying to stay stuck, they either need to get on the boat here, or they're going to be done with the group. Right. So, but I really like what you said, Bridget, taking these principles of recovery, applying them to all aspects of your life, all parts of your life. It's awesome.
There's two things there that I would just add to what you're saying, Brannon, that are sitting with me. One is I noticed this, and you guys will have noticed this too, that it only takes, it takes a core group of 2 or 3 people in a group to then change the whole culture of that group.
Yeah.
So it's
that's why Tyler and I will sprinkle in peer mentors here and there, like, because we know,
it's like, man, if you get just a couple of the right personalities that then drink the Kool-Aid, so to speak, all of a sudden that starts to emanate that the power of the collective of 2 or 3 is a lot stronger than the power of one just burning their lantern in the darkness. And so it's like, as you try to help people, and that's why I try to always have people who are kind of in all of my groups. You'll see that I try to always have people who have done the work already, who are now just wanting to be mentors and be involved, kind of like you guys, or even sometimes they're wanting to go on to be therapists or whatever else. I have that, but then I also have the core group members who have also, they're doing the work, and you get 2 or 3 of them, and then the whole group starts to be able to kind of feed off that energy, and it grows. And that becomes really, really valuable. The other thing that Brannon said that I think is interesting is, Brannon, you use the word chaos to describe progress.
Yeah.
And sometimes people are coming to a group looking for safety, and they get the safety through the validation and empathy, but what they don't realize is they're coming to the group to not have to live the way they've been living, which means they're going to have to do something different. And so that accountability and that push into chaos, a good group at any given time will have several of the members doing something really, really hard and getting their butts kicked in life, and then coming back to the group and being like, whoa, I just had this hard conversation with my in-laws and it did not go well. Okay, let's break it down. Like, let's figure it out. You did awesome, or man, like I haven't had sex with my wife in 2 years. Like, okay, well, let's figure out, is that working for you or not? Because you're doing awesome work otherwise. Like, what kind of conversations do you need to start having? And when they start to do that, those acts of courage also become their own form of like motivation sometimes for other people to say, wow, they could do that, I could do my thing. And so sometimes just influencing a couple of people around you instead of the whole group is also a way to go. So,
guys, this has been a good discussion. We could go on, but we're running out of time. So yeah, I need you guys to come peer mentor in like all my groups. You do that?
we Brannon and I, Brannon said this at the beginning of the episode. Clients like you guys, the people who actually decide to just stop trying to run it themselves and be in control themselves and just give themselves over to the full process. You are the reason why Brannon and I do what we do.
Yeah.
We love our jobs because we get to be, and we get to be a witness of, and you guys only shared a little small part of your story. Your story is phenomenal. It's spectacular. It's miraculous. And you guys are inspiration to me. And I just want to say thank you to you for the work you're doing. I know that there's still a long ways to go, because there always is, but thank you for your willingness to come on today too.
We really appreciate you having us. You guys are inspiration to us, and it's because of programs like the ones that you guys have put together that gave us hope, gave us the resources to find our way out. So we really appreciate you guys.
You guys, if this was helpful, throw a comment in and just say thank you to Chris and Bridget, and be willing to share it as well. And we really appreciate you guys listening and being along with this journey with us. And until next time, keep on keeping on.